Vivek has joined us today.
Good morning, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the BCM Podcast with Brad Swail, who is representing Vivek Ramaswamy today.
He did
Michael
this
Searle,
perfectly.
Michael Searle and Charles Blain. Thank you for joining us. This is a podcast where we talk about all things. Typically, we talk about Texas stuff, but today I think we're going to mix it up. And so, should be fun. What's going on, guys? How are you? What are you guys reading and eating?
Nice applause for you.
Was that an applause? It didn't sound like one, but I'll take it.
Maybe you've just never been celebrated before.
Could be it too.
And it's the first time I've heard applause.
My parents never, What are you guys reading and eating? I'm really curious.
What are we reading and eating?
Yeah, like what are you reading and what are you like eating lately? Anything good?
Oh my God, what a question.
Good question.
I mean, go ahead, Michael, please.
No, I want to hear what you're eating, Brad.
You know what I'm eating.
Or reading.
Egg, beef, cottage cheese.
I love cottage cheese.
I mean, but then what I'm reading, I haven't, I'm one of those guys, I buy books like wild. I've kind of slowed down recently, but buy books like wild. And I just never, like, I'll get to some of them sometimes, then like I'll buy a new one and I never get to that one. But right now I'm waiting on starting G. Van Fleet's American Maoism. Yeah. Are you excited about it? You should be. Pump it up.
Sounds like a great book.
G. Van Fleet's great. Michael, what are you eating?
I'm still on the high protein diet. So chicken crust pizzas for lunch. Typically eggs or overnight oats for the morning, and then something very meat centric at night. Reading. I'm not reading anything right now.
Overnight oats.
I'm a complete disgrace.
No, sometimes the brain needs a break,
Oh, I just spent the week on KLBJ in the morning, so I haven't had a lot of time to read books. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a radio star.
Thought TV killed the radio star.
Yeah, waiting for your plug for the BCM on KLBJ. I tune in all the time. So.
When I am a permanent fixture at KLBJ, I assure you that will happen. But I don't know. I mean, I've only been able to plug my own podcast like twice on that thing.
So not a star.
So not a what?
So not a star.
Guys, something came up. This interview is over.
Well, you guys want to get started on our topics.
Today,
go ahead.
What?
No,
I'm not trying to interrupt you. Please. What I got in the way. Please.
No, I was just going to tell everybody what we were talking about today, which is why Texas ranks very low in overall freedom as well, but particularly personal freedom, despite the claims that we often make to the contrary. We're going to talk a bit about Tucker Carlson, and I don't know what else to say about him, but his new endeavors. And we're going to talk about this kind of Austin to San Antonio shooting rampage and its tie to some leftist groups that are very well funded. Is that accurate, Brad?
Yes, that is exactly accurate. We should, I don't know, where do y'all want to start? And is that the order we're going in, Charles?
No particular order. Let's just dive in.
Well, can we just talk briefly? I mean, first off, I got Vivek Ramaswamy behind me here. That's I made this little, I did that on my own. Why can't I figure this out in my hands? But he did great at the debate. But let's talk about this home initiative here in Austin, because that's what I think.
Did he do great at the debate? I mean, okay, go ahead. Let's do
What did you just say?
We can talk about home.
Did Vivek do good at the debates?
I personally don't think he did. I mean, do you? I feel like he did very poorly. I think Chris Christie.
Let's sidebar here and talk about if we want Charles on the show anymore.
Well, why is my role neutral arbiter all the time? Vivek had his worst debate appearance yet, and some of the attacks on him landed. That's what I'll say. He had good moments, and he had bad moments, and the attacks finally actually sunk in.
Okay,
I think so. It was not good or bad for him.
All right, y'all are a couple of jokers. I get it.
He's like that annoying smart kid in class that at the end of class, when the teacher didn't collect the homework, he's the one to remind them. Like, it's just kind of like constant poking and poking. I thought Christie, who I'm used to be a fan of, not so much anymore. I thought he did a phenomenal job at just like swinging on him left and right.
You're not a serious person anymore.
I mean, listen, he was my governor, so I gotta.
Oh, you could be a fan of him as a governor, but a fan of his performance at the debate.
At this debate, yes.
Oh my God!
All right, let's talk about home. Capital HOME.
I'm just kidding. You're allowed to like and appreciate whatever you want in the debates, Charles. You're still a great guy. So yeah, home has passed. It is an initiative here in Austin. I think if you're not aware of it, they're going to densify Austin. The first phase just passed last night in a 9-2 vote, which I will certainly talk about here in a second. The first phase is now they will allow up to 3 single-family dwelling units on a single-family lot, so you can subdivide it a little bit. Add where there was 1, now there is 3. The second phase, which will be coming in spring of 2024, you will be able to subdivide the actual lot. A 7,500 or 5,700 square foot lot goes down to 2,500 square feet minimum. And so then where there was 1, there may be 9, 12, 15, depending on the size of the lot. It's crazy and will definitely not work, Charles. But what I find interesting, so there's this, a supporter made a sign. This is from the group AURA, Austin something, AURA. Do you know what that is, Michael?
AURA, I've heard of them.
Urban Rail.
Of course you fucking have.
Austinites for Urban Rail something.
In our neighborhood, density means diversity. ADUs are awesome. Characters make up the neighborhood character. Renters are welcome. No, they're not. Triplexes and fourplexes are pretty. Y'all means all. Austin is for everyone. A few things. Why is y'all means all a part of this? Why is housing density and land use policy wrapped up into every single progressive issue? Why? Charles, I'm looking at you.
Why am I explaining what's the progressive side of things? I have no idea.
You're the show's Yummy.
They're virtue signaling to their following. I mean, you talk to anybody about land use, their eyes glaze over. So how do you synthesize it down into something people can both understand and connect with? And the left is very, very good at that historically. Although they've got it over their skis in recent years, they're very good at making issues like pull on heartstrings. So that's what they're doing with how they're messaging it. And it worked. It worked on Chief NIMBY, Leslie Poole. Our city councilwoman who led home was previously against the land development code rewrite and kind of the champion of neighborhoods.
I don't know why she changed her tune. Maybe it's because she's not up for re-election, or maybe she's got something in the bag. I don't know. I don't think she has any financial gains to be had, but maybe she has an offshore account. I don't know. But so what happened last night, this was a long meeting, single item agenda meeting, and they had, I don't know, like hundreds and hundreds of people showed up to speak. A majority of them were in opposition, Charles. And, it wasn't like a massively one-sided. I think it was like maybe 55%, maybe 60% of the people were there in opposition. A lot of Black and Hispanic people showed up in opposition, contrary to what a lot of the white Yimbys want you to believe. And I find it interesting. I was able to predict precisely who would vote against it. I was a 9-2 vote. I knew that Allison Alter and Mackenzie Kelly were going to vote against it. That was, I think, obvious. And when you have a bunch of people show up, and I think the point of these meetings, they say, is to say, come voice your opposition. Let us hear your thoughts so that we know how we should vote, kind of, right? Isn't that sort of what they're supposed to do, right?
The idea of public hearings doesn't ever happen, but yeah.
And a majority showed up in opposition and not one person changed their mind. Isn't that something?
Well,
Not one fucking council person. Maybe, Leslie Poole. She championed it. Okay, she's not going to change her mind. Paige Ellis, Clark Watson, they're more moderate.
well, did the anti-home folks have good arguments? I mean, you can't just say if they showed up and had
There are
poor
nothing
arguments.
but good arguments against home.
So they showed up. They showed up. The last numbers I saw was like 530 in opposition and like 300 and something in support. And the urbanists were on Twitter trying to get more people to come down to City Hall. That thing was baked last week. The votes were never changing. I've been involved in those public hearings, both on a speaker side and on the council side. I've only seen in my life, I was talking with somebody about this, I've only seen in my experience the public testimony change minds a handful of times.
What was so unique about those situations? Because I think this is an important issue because I think it happens all over the country. It happens certainly in Austin and in Texas. What was unique?
New arguments that people hadn't considered. This has been bubbling up and people have been talking about it for so long. They've already heard everything. You're going and reiterating the points you've already made to them over and over and over and over again. It's not going to change anybody's mind.
Well, and that's the thing that you see from these groups, right? They do these template speeches and pass out to their members or their friends and allies. And then you go up here and you hear the same speech just with slight tweaks over and over and over again. And there's not much information. I know here locally, the few instances where votes have been changed at the dais or at the city council table have been when you were able to shift the sympathy away. So like we've had this historical preservation ordinance, which a lot of the people who support YIMBYism also supported this ordinance because they wanted to preserve historical homes, whatever. But you had homeowners come in who said that if you pass this, you're going to essentially tax me out of house and home because I'm not going to be able to afford to do upgrades to my home. And so you had that sympathy shift. And then the news started reporting that. And then you started reporting all these stories of older Black homeowners who'd be pushed out of their homes if this passed. And then it failed. So I think it's few and far between as well. But I would like to point something out. California, which I'm assuming is who you guys modeled this after, the California Home Act, SB 9 from 2019 or something, 2020. When they passed this abolishing of single family zoning, everybody had these same arguments. It's going to destroy neighborhoods. It's going to, create slums, this, that, the other. It has effectively had no difference in the year since it's passed. I think I'm looking at some data. It says that the application of it has been limited or non-existent. LA has received a couple hundred applications. They permitted 20,000 new homes, but only received it says 9 applications and approved 9 units. Anaheim 2, Danville, which I don't know where that is, 20. LA actually was 28. They approved. Sacramento 9, San Jose 10. I mean, it's not going to destroy the neighborhoods. If it didn't happen in California to that extent, I don't think it's going to happen in Austin the way that people who are against it are afraid.
With the exception of people are leaving California in droves and coming to Austin. So
But why? Because it's unaffordable.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is there's the market.
It's not going to be more affordable.
Huh?
The market factors, the demand factors are different. So a comparison it's not an apt comparison because there's different factors in the market. But I also agree
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I also agree it's not going to destroy neighborhoods.
My thing is, if people are moving from California in part because of how expensive it is, obviously there are so many other issues as well. When you pass this law, you would think these jurisdictions would take advantage of it and start to move fast in order to create more affordable housing and increase density, since the argument is that density is going to decrease housing costs. And so for them to not even take advantage of it, not even approve it, LA, one of the most progressive cities in the country, if they're only approving 28 of these applications, and assuming they got more than 28, I would assume that they did. I can't imagine that Austin's going to be crazy. I can't imagine they're going to be improving 500, 1,000 of these applications to the point where you're really destroying neighborhood character. And to the point we made in our text before, it does not supersede deed restrictions. People still can get deed restrictions or have their current deed restrictions enforced. Yes, it's a burden on the person who's challenging the development and who's upholding the deed restriction. I understand that, and that's not okay. But that's why Austin people should push to do what Houston did, which is force the city to defend deed restrictions rather than do it individually.
Oh, yeah, good luck. Now we got to convince the city of Austin to do something. Ugh.
Petition.
No, I mean, stop it. Okay, just to respond to that real quick. I mean, Austin is experiencing an influx, a rather large influx, and we've built a lot. And a lot of the people that are moving here are very high wages. Why, tech workers, whatever. I think I've seen somewhere $150,000 income is maybe the average, or very common. So that's not. They're not going to be home builders are not going to be building little tiny homes and ADUs. They're going to be building fucking as much as they possibly can to make as much money as they possibly can. And I think YIMBYs, Charles, you should know this because you're one of them. What happened in Houston when they did this, right? You say we modeled it after California. I keep hearing we modeled it after Houston.
Well, no, I didn't say you modeled. I assume that the model's after California because it's called the Home Act. I mean, it's the same thing, literally. So I thought it was modeled after California. I don't know. I'm not involved in the Austin fight, so I don't know who they modeled it after.
Again, YIMBYs, one thing I've learned about YIMBYs is they always lie.
I was not involved in this fight. I'm just speaking of this from afar. But if you guys did model it after Houston, great. You're going to see a lot of townhomes develop that did not destroy communities.
Well, here is
more communities on the outskirts where people move to.
Here's the argument that Heyman makes in Brad's excellent podcast with UT professor Richard Heyman at the University of Texas, and he's a professor of urban affairs. I'm not going to articulate it as well as he did, but Charles, this is what two things happen. One is where this is going to happen is going to be in low-income neighborhoods, existing affordable low-income neighborhoods. So that's going to displace people who own homes there. It's also going to rise the price of the land in those neighborhoods, which is going to force people on fixed incomes or low incomes they're not going to be able to pay their property taxes. And that's where the disparate impact is going to be. And they're going to build homes, as Brad points out. You build to the market, but you also build to the highest price in that market. So they're going to build to the higher income earners, not to the lower income earners. Did I do him justice?
I don't even remember who. Yes, you did. I'm joking. It's a great episode. It's out right now. Y'all should go check it out. Austin City Councilman Podcast. Yeah, he did a good job. And, I think that, as he also made some other good points, I think, but you're going to have to go listen to that. That's not what this show's for.
And that's home.
And that's home. Let's bring it home. So I guess do y'all want to switch to something else, or do you want me to talk about this, the shooter, the rampage with
Usher us in. Let's hear it.
Usher you in. Well, I'm not sure if everybody's heard just yet, but if you haven't, here's what happened. A man who in February of 2022 he was bailed out by the Texas Organizing Project, a very progressive, social justice nonprofit, bailed out of the Bexar County Jail in 2022 for 3 counts of misdemeanor family violence. Okay, so they bail him out, and over time, what happens is he gets crazier and crazier, I guess, and he doesn't change his ways. Lo and behold, look at that, and he killed 2 people in San Antonio earlier this week. Drove up to North Austin, shot a AISD police officer, then drove to South Austin and killed. I think what was the grand total? I think 4 people were killed. So it's a tragic situation, obviously. It's also kind of a wild situation. Why did he start in San Antonio? Why did he drive all the way up to North Austin? Why did he drive down to South Austin? A lot of people, including the very wise Vicky Goodwin, our state representative here, was upset that AP didn't put out an active shooter warning. Right? Why didn't they do this? There was an active shooter. Why didn't you do it? Well, it wasn't exactly obvious from all of the facts present at the time that, a shooting in South Austin and a shooting in North Austin and a shooting in San Antonio, North Austin, South Austin, not really clear that all that's connected. But this organization, Texas Organizing Project, that bailed him out, somehow he met their criteria for low cash bail. The San Antonio or the Bexar County jails, Bexar County Sheriff, had a program set up back in February of 2022 where they would send this group and other organizations a list every week of low cost bails, right? Low cash bails. And they would just send them this list and people would bail them out, right? So they were really trying to move this along. And this group, Texas Organizing Project, was funded to the tune of several $1 million by, who do you think?
George Soros.
What? How did you know? Exactly. Very lucky guess. He's new to this game of funding, and that was just a lucky guess. They were funded to the tune of about $2.5 million by the Open Society Foundation. And my question is, what do we do about that? Is there something that we can do about it? Did I do that story justice, Michael? Did you follow it at all?
Yeah, I mean, no, I didn't. I followed a little bit on Twitter. My understanding is he shot his parents in San Antonio, then drove up to AISD, shot, but did not kill a AISD police officer. Then he killed one other person. That's what I understand, and shot two more. So the guy's obviously on some deranged. He's obviously deeply disturbed human being. And then, did you see the statement from the organizing project?
I did. I could pull it up, but yeah, I saw it. And that's kind of that's where I got the guy's name is Shane James. That's where I got the information that he met their criteria at the time. Through our justice program, we bailed out James in coordination with the Bexar County's Public Defender's Office nearly 2 years ago in February 2022 on misdemeanor charges where his bond fees totaled $300. Can't come up with $300.
On that, his parents advocated for his release because the misdemeanors were assault on his parents, and they advocated for his release because it was a mental health issue. And had he been charged, served maximum sentences for those 3 misdemeanors, he would have been out of jail by now anyway. So I get that they stepped in and they do deserve blame, but he still would. I think it still would have happened. But even if Top didn't get involved.
Have you never heard of the butterfly effect?
I've seen the movie.
I've seen the movie.
So you're an Ashton Kutcher fan, I see. Okay, or maybe you're a Mila Kunis fan, and this is your way to get to Mila Kunis. No, I don't believe that if he had served a year in county jail for these misdemeanors, that this would have happened. I mean, I don't know, but it seems highly unlikely that if you change someone's life that dramatically, that instead of getting bailed out, they spend a year in county jail. I think things would have operated differently. I guess it could go the other way and he could have killed more people. But at the end of the day, that's a difficult thing to say, I think.
I mean, I'd argue that the reason he shot people is because of the mental health issues, like more so than if someone's going to do that and they're going to assault their parents and all this other stuff, they're not necessarily concerned about jail. Like there's something else going on. It also says in August, the cops were called because he was naked in the front yard and behaving strangely. They went to the home, didn't arrest him because he barricaded himself in a bedroom. They limited their use of forced entry. So like he's had a lot of issues with mental health. I don't think that would have been fixed by a year in jail. Like, so I mean, who knows what would have happened, but I don't know that it wouldn't have happened had he served that year.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen. Well, I guess maybe there's some cases, I don't know, but I don't think it's typical for people to go to county jail for a year and come out more mentally stable. But maybe they would have seen. I don't know. Maybe he would have gotten some. Like they would have caught it. Like if you're sick in jail, they're responsible for you, right? Is he going to receive the best health care in county jail? No, but I think he's going to receive something, and maybe he'd get a diagnosis, and maybe they'd force him to take some medications, right?
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm only fair.
Here's my thing, and here's my take, and I'm just going to piss off everybody because I'm so tired of this partisan loop. It's not productive. It's like everybody's Monday morning quarterbacking it, say, oh, if we had not bonded him, he wouldn't have done this. Or if we just had stronger gun control, he would have, he wouldn't have shot any people. And there's just all these arguments on the left and the right, and they're pointing fingers and they're Monday morning quarterbacking it. And then we forget in 4 days. And we spend 4 days talking about a seriously deranged human being when there are actual victims here that have families, that have like people that are left behind. Why aren't news stories dedicated to those people? That's the real story here. It's not this sicko, which, look, guys, we don't know what happened to him to create him. Maybe he was serially raped by his parents when he was a baby. Like we have no context for why he's the way he is. But we spend days and days pointing fingers, talking about gun control, and then we forget. I would suggest that if the time was spent talking about the victims and their families and the devastation that was left behind by the lack of action on gun control or the lack of action on mental health, I'm not advocating those things. I'm just saying the lack of doing anything different, we'd actually focus our attention in a good way. So I read some CNN report. They gave one line to the victims. One line.
Well, I mean, local news has covered the victims a little bit. CNN, Daily Mail. I don't know if they're going to, do that digging. But KVUE, local news station, ABC station, had an interview with the husband of the woman that was randomly shot and killed. She heroically she was walking her baby, heroically pushed the baby out of the way. She got shot. She died, I think, at the scene. A pretty heart-wrenching interview with the husband. I'm surprised that he turned around and did an interview that quickly. That is not to say that he shouldn't have. I mean, obviously, go for it. But you're absolutely right, Michael, that we don't know this guy's story. He could have been serial raped by his parents, and that is one reason why I'm an advocate for peaceful parenting, no spanking, all that stuff. Be kind to your children. Obviously, still be disciplined and set boundaries and everything, but that stuff does have real life implications. Not to say that if you spank your child that you're going to become this person. But you also have to ask the question, well, I mean, other people have gone through that same similar tragedy in their early life and they didn't do this.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't excuse anything, but we're getting to the bottom of what makes these people do these things.
Yeah, I'm certainly not justifying his actions. He's a sicko. Like,
and I don't know what. Hopefully, it didn't sound like I was saying that you were doing that.
Yeah, and we don't know what led him to this. I'm tired of the loop where the left points at the right and the right points at the left, and then actually we don't do anything different. We just stay in the exact same place. But and also just admitting that I don't know if we have the power, to do anything about sickos running around shooting people. Like, I don't know that we have the power to do anything about that in the short term. There's probably something we can do about the frequency or the amount of times this happens, but that's a broader economic, psychological, cultural discussion that wouldn't be fixed overnight, which people don't want to have.
Peaceful parenting.
Peaceful parenting.
I think that's a great place to start. But this is not the first time that a progressive activist group has let someone out, bailed someone out, and they've gone out a repeat offender or whatever, or even a DA chose not to prosecute a repeat offender, and they go out and they commit more crime, sometimes more heinous. On these nonprofit side, I don't know. I don't know what there is. Is there even? Would it be wise to try to hold them accountable? Are they responsible? Right? You could say the DAs are responsible because that's their elected job. But of course, they're the government, so there's no ever any sort of personal recourse. Best thing you're going to do is, I don't know, vote them out. Woohoo! Some other loser comes in and does the same thing. Is there recourse? Should there be recourse towards these private organizations?
I think there should be. I mean, if you go to jail and I bail you out, I mean, you're released into my custody, and God forbid you go and like rob a supermarket 5 minutes later, like they're going to look at me because I bailed you out. And so I think there should be some sort of responsibility for these organizations that do the same. I don't know that there currently is. I don't know one way or the other whether there currently is. But there definitely should be something. I mean, if you're going to take ownership of that individual because you looked at their record and you looked at the situation of this case and you think that they warrant getting, this getting bailed out based on your, bond fund, well, then you should take responsibility for their actions when they're out.
Yeah.
Not forever. I mean, until
forever.
the case is processed, but
forever. What's wrong with robbing a supermarket?
I mean,
that's all the rage nowadays.
with the price of groceries.
You've seen the price of groceries. Thanksgiving just happened. You know how expensive things get.
Yeah, so I don't know how you eat so many eggs. I mean, with the cost of eggs today.
Oh my god, it's not. I mean, I even get the nice eggs, and they're $6 to $10 a dozen, right? If I eat 6 eggs in one day, and I'm getting on the cheaper side of that, that's not that expensive for a meal. I mean, I'm probably spending $10 a day on food. Is that a lot?
If you're eating 6 eggs a day, that's $5 just in eggs. And then I'm sure there's other food.
Wait, Michael's not paying you for this? You can afford the nice eggs? No, I'm saying in general, I spend about $10 a day on food. Maybe, $12. Is that a lot of money per day?
No.
Chipotle is going to cost you more than that for lunch.
And well, not to mention the emotional distress that you feel afterward from eating Chipotle.
Well, you can get a healthy Chipotle.
The loss of productive time when you're on the toilet.
I'm actually a fan of Chipotle. I'm with Charles here.
It's just a little pricey.
That shocks me that you spend $10 a day on food. I don't know how you would do that.
Well, let's see. I mean, I don't always get the nice eggs. So, I mean, maybe I get the eggs that are $6 a dozen. If I eat half of those in a day, it's $3. Plus I eat maybe $5 of beef a day. That's $8. And then cottage cheese. What are you doing?
It's counting.
Are you throwing gang signs up? What the hell's happening? Which gang is that? Is that the 3-6 Mafia?
Yes.
Okay. They're a gang, right? And then cottage cheese, maybe another $5. I don't know. I think it's maybe $10 to $15, depending on the day.
That's cheap.
Dang.
Yeah, and I feel great, and I'm healthy, and I eat only meat. So come at me, bitches, bitch-ass vegans. What?
We should have a whole discussion on that. Did you know I know this isn't a topic, but I was a vegan for five years.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
5 years?
Except for Thanksgiving.
You made up for the rest of the year on Thanksgiving. Wait, was this up until recently? Because I remember I got tacos with you once, and you got like vegan tacos.
No, this was years ago.
Oh, this was way back. Okay. I remember. I feel like you didn't get meat tacos.
Have your T levels ever recovered?
I doubtful. I'm just kidding. No, it was. I will say. Here's what I'll say. I felt great.
Why'd you
and
stop?
Because I like bacon and cheese.
That's your body telling you something.
Yeah, no, I feel great now. I did feel good. And the amount of alcohol that I consumed in my 20s was, bogging me down a little bit too. So if the vegan was making me feel good, there's something to eating. I don't know if it was the switching to vegan or if it was just getting a lot of organic, like real food in your body. Because prior to that, I was not a good eater.
That's I mean, if we want to make the vegans angry, I can just say that it's probably because you went from a standard American diet to a vegan diet, and that is certainly a step up, but it is not a long-term solution. As most vegans, yourself included, something happens. Oh man, I'm desiring some meat. Why? What is happening? I mean, my body's telling me something. I need that actual protein and absorbable nutrients.
Yeah. Plus, if you watch the Game Changer documentary, there's a strong case in there, a strong case in there for why you should be eating meat.
Interesting. Okay, can we talk about personal freedom in Texas?
I wish I had some Vivek audio clips I could play, because it's like he's talking into the mic right now.
Yeah, he's talking about veganism and that ass.
He is vegan. That's right. Never mind. I'm full blown Nikki now. He is vegan or vegetarian.
I didn't know that.
He's vegetarian because he's Hindu. Hindi?
Oh.
Yeah.
He's Indian. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, you can be anyway. Yes, I did know that. So all right. So next topic is about Texas ranking 50th on Cato's personal freedom score.
What?
Yeah. 17th in overall, 50th
Wow.
when it comes to personal freedom. So let's take a look at what they had to say.
It's very different than, say, a state like Texas, which is number 17 overall, but a big part of that is because they're number 50 on personal freedom. Well, they've been working on expanding educational choice in Texas, and that would help. And I haven't looked recently, but weren't they just in a special session on this?
Yeah, it failed.
It failed. The biggest issue is that their crime-adjusted incarceration rates are really high. Governor Rick Perry, the Texas Public Policy Foundation, lots of conservatives in what is called the Right on Crime effort were in favor of changing Texas laws because they realized that, they had an incarceration problem. And that drives a lot of Texas's problems on personal freedom. I find it absolutely absurd that a place that cares so much about freedom would not have a better educational system. I understand the politics of Texas for why this happens, but it shows you that the commitment to freedom that Texas usually talks about is some measure true and some measure hype. And I hate to say that about the great Lone Star State. It's a great place, but it needs to do better if it wants to continue to talk about freedom.
Yeah, I mean, it is one thing to punish violent criminals, which we all support, and there's even a case for
All right, I'm going to cut it off there. He goes on to talk a little bit about how you can still be sentenced to life in Texas for marijuana charges. And so, it's kind of crazy. And I 100% agree with him. I'm going to write a column on this because I think Texas does do this thing where we love to talk about freedom and we love to talk about how don't mess with Texas and this and that and the other, but yet we rank really low. And even if you look at what they ranked and what they used to calculate that ranking, I mean, it's pretty fair. They looked at things like ESA, school choice, whether or not you have the ability to find the school that best fits your kids' needs. They looked at the fact that we allow local governments to use license plate readers unregulated. They looked at how we still have no reform of civil asset forfeiture laws, how high our local taxes and debt are, how we still have some insurance mandates, how occupational licensing is high, how nurse practitioners are overregulated and enjoy no freedom of independent practice. We have price gouging laws, controlling for the crime rates, incarceration's high. Our cannabis laws are very strict. 7 grams or more carries a mandatory minimum of 6 months. We banned mostly harmless psychedelic Salvia divinorum, which I'm not even familiar with that is, but we banned that in 2013.
You don't know what that is. Okay.
I've heard of Salvia. I don't know if that's the same thing, but
I'm pulling it out of him. What else have you heard of?
Gambling, and there's a whole host of other things. But I mean, it's interesting because we talk a lot about personal freedom and we don't allow people to be personally free.
You just listed a whole shitload of things that we don't have freedom on. And I'm not arguing with any of it at this point, but we were still ranked 17th overall.
Mostly carried by our economic freedom.
Okay, so
that was because we ranked
business, and you can do business here, but if you get caught with a little bit of weed, lifetime in jail, straight to jail. Off you go. You can't. You want to send your kid somewhere else? You want to keep your money, send your kid somewhere else? You can start the private school as a business, but don't you dare take your kids. Bitch, what?
But yeah, you're right. 17th overall, mostly boosted by our economic freedom. The regulatory freedom was decent. And then we were weighed heavily down by our personal freedom, which I think is probably more important than most.
But it seems like most people disagree with you, though.
Because we haven't changed that stuff? Yeah, probably.
Well, no, not necessarily that, but because Michael's on mute again, his dog's acting up. Because people keep moving here, right? And yes. I mean, maybe, of course, whatever. If I'm going to move to, I don't know, North Dakota, I'm probably not going to do a lot of research and what's their regulatory environment? I'm just going to, is there an opportunity for me to move there that makes sense for me economically, maybe, or maybe family? I don't know, like typical reasons. People aren't going to go look at the laws.
Right.
You know, what am I going to do if I get caught with 7 grams worth of marijuana? Right. Yeah. But still, I mean, people move here and it's not changing, and a lot of people keep moving here. And so it kind of seems like maybe the economic policy, I mean, I tend to agree with you, Charles. Personal freedom is, that's very important. If you ask me which one is more important, economic or personal, I think they kind of intertwine a little bit. But
I think they kind of intertwine, and I think ultimately, people are still moving here because the economy rules, right? Like it's the economy dictates how you vote. It dictates where you choose to live. If I'm moving somewhere, if I have a $500,000, if I have $1 million house in California and I'm selling it, and I'm getting a nicer $500,000 house in Texas, I'm not necessarily Googling whether or not civil asset forfeiture is legal in Texas. Like I'm going to move because of the economic factors. But you're right. I think they probably go hand in hand. I do put personal freedom a little higher, but ultimately, I guess the fact that people are still moving here and businesses are starting and we're leading in the economy proves that Texas wins the day based on the economy, I guess, for now.
Yeah. No, you're right. My dogs were going crazy, barking very loudly. I mean, it's always freedom in the judgment of freedom. Like we're just using the term freedom as like an eye of the beholder. And this is CATO Institute. They're going to emphasize criminal justice issues. 3 things that I was surprised to not see on there: abortion, not on the list; vaccines, not on the list; and trans surgeries, not on the list. I mean, the Texas culture is conservative and Christian.
On some of that a little bit.
Why? They've got, look at this list here. They've got Charles.
Why you just say whatever you want on the show and not get asked why?
Well, they have gambling. Are you free to gamble? They have gun rights. Can you own guns? They have
I'm saying expand on why you think that, so you said abortion, you said transgender, genital mutilation, and what was the other one you said?
Vaccines.
Yeah.
He's saying because they counted everything else, why'd they exclude those 3 things? Which I don't know either. I'm
not making a judgment on whether on any of those issues. Really, I'm just saying I was surprised to not see them here. If you're talking about freedom, personal freedom.
Well, as a former transgender man,
you've got
you're vegan. I just assume
you got asset forfeiture on here. I mean, asset forfeiture surely impacts less people than mandatory vaccines, I would assume, and it's probably
on the vaccine issue. I mean, I guess they should have included it, right? Because you can easily opt out of vaccines here in Texas. Super easy.
Everywhere
for schools, it's really
for schools. What about employment? Like not all employment.
I've never had a job ask me if I'm vaccinated. I don't think.
If you work at a hospital.
Well, we just passed the legislation that says your employer cannot require vaccines. So prior to that, presumably.
But I thought that law excluded. I thought that law excluded because they were saying that like I think UT Health here could still do it or something like that. I thought it excluded something, whether it was schools, maybe not. It was schools. Okay, so medical school they could still require it, and I guess if you work there, maybe I don't know. Because I remember seeing some tweets about how it wasn't. Wasn't all encompassing. I don't know the details of it.
But seeing this, I'm a fan of CATO. I don't like their, the Koch's recent news that they made, and we'll probably talk about that in a little bit. But seeing this through their lens, I mean, that doesn't surprise me that they rated Texas at the bottom. We have it's Texas. It's the South. It's overwhelmingly Christian. It's formerly older, and there's a hard on crime culture here that hasn't allowed things as obvious as allowing people to smoke weed if they want to, hasn't allowed that to pass the legislature, and therefore an infringement on personal freedom. Because if you don't have the right to smoke weed, like you're a slave. Not a slave, but you know what I mean. You're not free. Bad choice of words. You're not free.
Well, and salvia, I Googled it. It's a perennial herb in the mint family that is abused for hallucinogenic effects.
It's you, dog. What's up?
So it's in the mint family, and we banned it in 2013-14. And I remember now because I remember seeing all these news stories about people going to the park, smoking it, and like passing out and stuff. But we banned that, and like you said, we don't include some of this other stuff. It's interesting. It is CATO, right? So yeah, I think you kind of take that for what it's worth. Are we technically in the South, or are we in the West?
South?
Is Texas
South?
I thought Texas was Western. I guess maybe I'm mistaken.
Maybe, I don't know. I always get that confused too. We might be Wests. I don't know.
Because I feel like the culture between like the Deep South and Texas is wildly different. I feel like Texas is more like the West states, but okay, it's neither here nor there.
Well, I mean, we are literally in the middle of the United States, and we're at the very bottom. I don't know how we get like mixed up with the West. I feel like we should be. I don't know what it is, but is your point, Michael, just saying like they should add these things to the list, and which direction do you think our number would go? You think we become less free?
Well, should they add those things to the list? I mean, they have marriage freedom on here. Why don't they have women's reproductive freedoms on here?
Yeah. And quite frankly, I think because it's CATO, if they were to add those things to the list, we'd probably be even lower. Like I would assume from where CATO's coming at, where CATO is on the ideological spectrum, that they would probably not boost our rating based on those issues.
I guess my point of bringing all that up is not to advocate one way or another. It's to say that this is a very specific definition that CATO has come up with that doesn't necessarily include all freedoms. So it's viewed at from what the CATO Institute cares about, and knowing that that's what they care about. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised they're ranking Texas low. They're trying to shame them into moving on some of these more non-controversial issues that, like, Ohio voters just passed cannabis, decriminalization, and Texas still is criminalizing people for small amounts of marijuana possession.
Maybe you guys just stop 420 blazing all the time.
I don't even smoke weed. I have. I really don't.
Right now.
I don't.
Wait, so okay, in your estimation though, would you not say that Texas is not in it? Where would you rank Texas? Because I don't think Texas, I think based on a lot of the stuff that they rated, but even on things that they did not rate, I would still say Texas is not very high on the personal freedom list. Like, I feel like we're much more, we're definitely more conservative than we are libertarian, and conservatives, I don't think, have an issue using government to direct the public in a way that they think the public should be. And so, like, even like qualified immunity things, I don't think they count qualified immunity on that, but that's I mean, there's so many things we just don't address. And the fact that my license plates can still be ran like all willy-nilly by officers without kind of some restraint there, I think it's kind of crazy. So I wouldn't rate it high, take or leave what CATO ranked.
What are you hiding, Charles?
For my life, I mean, nothing. I just don't want to get pulled over for no reason. They should not just be driving around.
If you got nothing to hide, why would you get pulled over, man?
That's their argument.
What's going on,
Get out of here with that. Oh my gosh, this guy's straight out of the NSA, making 2013 arguments against Edward Snowden.
Hey, all I got to say is I saw something and I said something. Okay, no big deal.
Here's something I got to say. We have a Fourth Amendment. What does the Fourth Amendment say?
I stopped reading after the first.
Oh, well, we have God-given right to prohibit. The government cannot search or seize anything of ours without a warrant, including our license plate number.
Well, what about that cash that they love seizing here in Texas?
Yeah, the problem is that conservatives, like Charles said, have no problem using government force to push their social agenda, which is not the conservatives. I won't say the conservatives. I'll say the Republican Party has no problem using government force to infringe on individual liberty when it supports their worldview, and that's one of the biggest problems with the Republican Party, right there.
I will say, I'm obviously joking around a little bit here. I actually don't think that you smoke weed, Michael. I don't want people to think that I was serious and that I was like revealing. I don't think that you do. I don't think he does. Probably because you're a square.
No, I definitely have partooken.
You sound like you have. Look at you.
Some of my brain cells are dead.
Maybe you shouldn't have partaked.
Excuse me.
I don't particularly like.
Would you like to partook in some of the marijuanas, maybe?
But what's the past tense? But
I'd
much prefer a mushroom to weed. It's not my speed.
Woo!
Yeah.
It is partook.
Okay. Partook. I definitely have partook in the marijuana.
Well, let's talk about speaking of partaking in marijuana. Let's talk about Tucker Carlson.
Oh, should we start off with a clip?
It's not a clip. So I put together this video. He's been going on, I'll give the intro. He's been doing this speaking tour, He's going on all the podcasts. He had Alex Jones on last night. He's going on Megyn Kelly next week. And I watched some of them and parts of other ones. And I was like, what I'm interested in is what is he doing? So I took some of the, more fiery things he said and mashed them up in a short little video that we can watch here. And then we'll talk about it.
Voting for Trump. And if they convict him, I will send him the max donations and I will lead protests. That's how I feel.
I'm just mesmerized by the love for Nikki Haley. But like, if you get to a place where you think that Nikki Haley has a shot of getting elected in a free and fair election, like you have no idea what's going on in your own country. It's just embarrassing to say that. It's super embarrassing.
So, but I'll tell you a way that I think is a good start to figuring out what's true is watch what they become hysterical about. You'll see somebody occasionally say something and people just land on him. Shut up! Shut up! Let's put him in jail. Whatever that guy is saying is true, or it points in the direction of the truth.
Assange has been accused of telling the truth, period.
Yeah.
And they are torturing him to death in front of all of us. No one's doing anything about it. And that Mike Pompeo is a very, very sinister person.
Isn't he?
The worst. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that, and I've told Trump that. Never should have allowed him to run CIA or state. But Mike Pompeo tried to have him murdered.
Federal agencies have been lying about UFOs for more than 80 years. The conventional explanation for why they haven't been released is that the U.S. government is lying about UFOs because the truth about UFOs is too scary to reveal, that they're real, and our leaders wouldn't want to panic the population. But that's not true. In fact, it's ridiculous. Wouldn't want to terrify the population? Terrifying the population is what our government does best and most avidly. Officials regularly gin up irrational fears about COVID or white supremacy or Vladimir Putin, or a dozen other topics as part of a pretty obvious control strategy. It's not like these people mind it scaring you. They want to scare you, and they do it every day. So why would they lie about UFOs? Well, because they're covering up a crime, obviously.
Just before we start, this is a picture of me and Tucker from back in the day, if you guys can see. I was very young at the time.
How old were you?
20.
How old are you now?
34.
Gross.
So what is he doing? What do you guys think he's doing?
When you said VP the other day, I was like, and then next thing I knew, I saw an Axios article the next morning that said that Melania was lobbying for him to be VP. And I'm like, okay.
Melania is lobbying she has a crush on him, probably.
Beats me. But yeah, apparently she's lobbying for it. I don't know what he's doing. I'm still stuck on the part where he said Mike Pompeo tried to have the president killed. Like I want some more information on
Julian
that.
Assange killed.
Oh, is that what he was saying? Oh, sorry. Okay, I was very confused. It's like, why is that not bigger news? But yeah, I mean, I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he is campaigning for VP. Maybe that's what he's doing. I mean, I don't know that sitting down with Roseanne Barr is like going to seal the deal, but probably help.
Is that hot chick's name?
I don't know.
Doesn't Trump love Roseanne Barr though?
Probably, yeah. Probably.
I think. Why do you say that? Why?
They got a lot of comments. I don't know.
I don't think he's running for VP. I don't think that's what he's doing. I don't know. I'm not saying that it's impossible or that I have some that I definitely know, but I think he's having a good time. I think he's realized like he's gotten a taste of that freedom, that he's not on Fox News anymore. And, he says in interviews all the time, like they were not restricting my speech in any sort of significant way. He may have just said like they didn't do it at all, but he said that wasn't necessarily a problem, is the gist. But there's still that he says there's like a self-regulation that happens. You're on TV, you're representing someone else's network. Like you have to be careful about, you got to pick and choose your words and everything. It makes sense. And now he's got freedom to go around and talk to Theo Vaughn and Roseanne Barr, and he just had an interview with Alex Jones. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but anytime Alex Jones is on something like this, it's always great. And I think he's just having a good time. I think he's all right. Now I can say everything that I want to say, and people are listening, and I still got it. I think that's what's happening.
Well, also, I just
think-
Googled. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
You just think I'll just say this and then, so you just think he's unshackled. I think there's more to it, but Charles, tell me what you Googled.
I was going to say, I think it's marketing because Reuters reported yesterday that he's moving close to launching his new media company and that they've opened membership pre-sales, said Neil Patel, co-founder and chief executive of the new venture. He quoted, once we are comfortable that all systems are running well, we will launch and brand release will follow. So I'm starting to think that this is kind of him going around tapping into different audiences that might not be watching Tucker on X to get them to look to him and then maybe sign up for pre-sale for whatever this new media company is, so that when they do launch that they're kind of on the map. I forgot that he was launching a media company. I remember hearing that, but I forgot about that.
Guys, I just got an email from this new media company. They want me to. I can't do this. I got another show to do.
Good luck.
So, yeah.
I don't know. Are you guys going to subscribe to it?
What is
I
it?
already did.
What?
Tucker's launching a media company.
I know, but what is it called? I was joking. Like Tucker Carlson's media company sent me an email to invite me to like.
No,
have a show.
it's called.
What's it
Let me
called?
see.
Michael is the first subscriber.
So I actually think that you're right. He's got be the first in the door. We're going to keep eyes out for our next email for an announcement. I don't know. It's called tuckercarlson.com right now. I don't know if he has a name. So I think he's doing that, but I also think beyond that, he wants to be a significant cultural figure, whether that means he's running for president in 2028 or he's just going to have a media company, I think is to be determined. But he's also opening the Overton window pretty significantly with some of this stuff, like the Assange stuff. Like the right's not on the Assange thing. I don't know why. I can't figure out why. But the UFO thing, like he's talking about stuff that's pretty out there. He even said I don't know if it was Theo Vaughn, one of them. I went back and tried to watch some of these to pull some of these clips, but he's like, some crazy people are talking about lizard people, which might be true. Like he's giving space. He's stretching quite a bit. And what I think is happening with Tucker is something that happened with me, 10 years ago, where the mask comes off and you're like, holy shit. And then you just start going down all these different rabbit holes of what is possible. And amongst those, he's just starting to talk about them and say, look, conservatives, populists, I think more than conservatives, we can talk about this stuff. It's okay. And there's some truth here.
I recently heard about the lizard people.
That happened to you about 10 years ago, Michael. I first found out about 9/11 truth when I was maybe 19. So that's almost 20 years ago for me. Not a competition. I'm not saying I'm better than you, but we are watching in real time because this happened 5 weeks ago for Charles.
8, I think. I literally was Googling lizard people last week and reading that stuff. I don't believe it, but that's what someone who believes in lizard people would say in public.
Yeah.
But it is happening. It is happening. I'm not there on 9/11 yet, where you guys are, or I think, I don't know. I can't remember where you guys are. But I'm not there on 9/11, but I am there on some issues. I mean, UFOs for sure. Within the past 16 weeks, I'm sold on it without a doubt. Pyramids, all the stuff. But I don't know. He is moving the Overton window because even going back prior to him kind of going full in on the UFOs and everything, he had that guy, that Obama guy that claimed that he slept with the president on and I was like, why are you using your brand to elevate these strange people? But he's doing that. He's bringing these conversations that are very fringe, that most mainstream media turns a blind eye to or actively ignores to his platform. And maybe what he's doing is branding this platform as the platform that's going to talk about the stuff that they won't talk about, because you don't see that stuff on, I think, Daily Wire. You don't see that stuff in certainly not traditional media. So maybe he's trying to be that guy that's going to talk about everything. Nothing's off limits.
What's so strange about someone sleeping with Barack Obama? Some man. What's so strange about that? Did he show up to a 60,000 hot dog party?
I think the thing is, it feeds into that long running conservative conspiracy theory that, you know, Michelle's about all the stuff.
Michelle's what?
I'm not even gonna say it because no one's gonna clip me saying that and put it on social media. But there are those theories.
Wait, are you talking about Michael?
Yeah,
but you have those long-running conservative conspiracy theories that fall in that wheelhouse, and so I think that's where that comes from.
Yeah, I wasn't being precise with the 10 years. I don't know. I was in college, so I was probably like 23, 24. So it's been 14, 15 years. But yes, Charles, you're in for a great ride because it's very fun. It's very fun, but you'll come out of it and be like, well, some of that was crazy. Some of it has some truth to it. But I think Tucker is smart enough to know what he's doing, that he's not just acting haphazardly, I would say. And I think he sees the Republican Party as an impediment to actual change, because all they want to do is have the same freaking arguments that we've been having for the last 20 years, finger pointing the left. And I think he gets that there's a bigger issue at play. And I think he wants to break down some barriers on that.
Hey, Charles, have you ever seen a picture of Michelle Obama pregnant?
No, but I've seen her prom picture of when she was in high school. So there you go.
Have you seen her back? Have you seen her back?
Have you seen those buys? Well, keep saying her, and I'm not sure who you're talking about anymore. Are we talking about Michael?
She could be going in and out. We don't know. It's fluid. Gender is fluid. Some days she could be a man. Some days she could be a woman. Yeah.
Well, she's definitely a man when she's railing Barack.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't believe that one way. I don't care. I'm aware of the conspiracy, and it's a fun one. It's one of those ones that's a good time, but you just kind of say, I don't know about that.
But here's the thing, right? Like, reasonable people, I don't think believe that, but how many of these hosts have played on that? Okay, you guys are both like, maybe not.
What?
When I said reasonable people don't believe that, you guys are like, I don't know about that. But I think like most people do not generally believe that. But there is a contingent who wants to believe that and does believe that. And I feel like you have people who at times are Tucker and otherwise, other people in the conservative movement who play on those concerns, those fears, maybe unfounded fears that some conservative voters have, or these theories that some of which have been disproven, but some people still believe. And I feel like you have a lot of hosts who play on that simply because they know it's easy pickings.
Listen, I have an idea. Let's be those hosts and play on those. And that'll be the tagline for the show. Barack Obama is married to a man?
Here's I actually think that a lot of the the latent populism that came up during the Trump 2016 election and is now part of the Republican Party and establishment, I actually do think a lot of those people believe some of this stuff. I mean, I think there's a huge contingent amongst white working class people, many of which are my friends, that literally believe that Hillary Clinton drains blood from children and drinks it. And that is part of the Republican Party, and that's what Tucker's playing too.
Well, and I agree. Because I have those friends too who genuinely believe that. And I have people I know who genuinely believe that Michelle Obama is a man. But what I'm saying is, I don't believe that Tucker believes those things. I don't believe that a lot of these hosts believe those things, but they know that by repeating them and by pushing that narrative, it's going to build a bigger base. Now, I don't know Tucker personally. Maybe he does believe them. But I think a lot of these hosts don't generally, and a lot of these hosts and a lot of our elected officials, the same ones pushing these conspiracy theories, I don't think they genuinely believe them, but they know that there is a base that believes them and they're taking advantage of that. That's how I feel.
Michael,
I think Tucker's different. I think Tucker believes a lot of this stuff.
I think that Michael believes in adrenochrome.
I do.
I remember that name, but I don't remember what that is.
It's just a little bit at a time. Every show you're going to get more and more red pilled and conspiracy pilled. Soon you're going to be Googling frazzle drip, and that's going to be a tough one for you, but you'll figure it out.
Well, I was up at like 3 a.m. the other day watching a clip of this interview about lizard people. Like that's where I went on this tangent. I saw
Was
somebody.
David Icke?
No, it was some woman who was being interviewed, and it was like a very serious conversation about lizard people. She was like, "I'm a therapist, and I sit with them sometimes, and you can see when they change." And I'm just like, "All right, it's 3 a.m. Why am I watching this?"
Brad, don't act like you don't. You don't
what?
believe in adrenochrome.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, and
No idea.
Spirit cooking, and Marina Abramovich.
The only spirit cooking that I know about is when I put on some good music, I start making some food for my family. I'm dancing in the kitchen, just having a good time, barefoot, got my apron on. That's my spirit cooking because I let my spirit free.
Mm-hmm.
I think Marina Abramovich just came out with a new book, by the way.
Michael's already bought it. He said he hasn't read anything.
Yeah. I have not bought her book. I don't know if I believe it. I think I want to believe it. That's probably the honest truth.
What, spirit cooking?
Well, the horrible. Okay, so I can't make sense. We probably should have ended the show 5 minutes ago before I started talking about spirit cooking. But my general, I can't make sense of the evil shit they do. Like, it doesn't make sense in normal terms, in normal person terms. Like, the devastation they cause, the people that die in our wars. Like, how can you do that as a person and like live with yourself? So for me, there has to be something else going on. And that is one explanation that is plausible. That we're actually in a fight of good versus evil, and they represent evil. Just throwing it out there.
I mean, I don't disagree that some people are evil, and I don't disagree that we are in a fight against good versus evil. What I don't subscribe to, and I don't think you're doing this, but what I don't subscribe to that I think a lot of Republicans do is just automatically call every Democrat evil, just simply because they're, and I know you're not doing that, simply because they're a Democrat. And I think similarly to the people we were just talking about in the Republican Party who believe some of these things that have been disproven but are still questioning other things, there are people in the Democratic Party who believe in, what they think is good policy, and they're just following these other people who are leading the party down this path who are doing evil things. And so I feel
back to YIMBYism.
We're back where we started. We had to get there somehow. So I don't know. I mean, I think the leaders of both parties are pretty. I don't know if it's evil, but evil. Like, I think, like, for the lack of a better word, I think they're all trying to steer down that terrible path, and then it takes people who are woke or using the traditional version of woke that has been molested and changed into something different today, but have their eyes open to what's actually going on, are the ones who are pushing back against it and are often called fringe until that fringe starts to be proven true.
Well, I think that's a great place as any to stop the show. I hope that people tune in next week when we get to hear Charles defend Sean Combs, former bad boy president, accused of taking a 17-year-old across state lines and assaulting her. So I look forward to Charles's defense of him.
Great place to leave it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this if you have friends. Make sure you follow Michael Searle on Twitter at msearleatx. He has great tweets on Monday. Is it Mondays or is it Tuesdays? With a lot of hashtags. Follow Brad Swail at Brad Swail. Follow me at CJ Blain 10. Please share this with your friends and family if you have them.
Maybe not like moms, but friends and family. Yeah.